1 month's rent or more, and food, and medical care. What's that ring up for you? Yeah, we're talking, for us, that'd be a few $1,000s. For some of you, it might not be quite that much because you live with 8 other people and your rent's cheap. But think about that for a minute. Now, Jesus asked a question. All right, Mr. Lawyer, which of these do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? Again, obvious. The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. You know, this guy couldn't even say the Samaritan. He couldn't even bring himself to say it was the Samaritan. That's how hated they were. And he hated the fact that Jesus used the Samaritan as an example. It was the one who had mercy. And what's Jesus say? There you go. Go and do likewise. What was his answer up above? Do this and you will live. What was his answer down below? Go and do likewise. You know what? This is the challenge that we have. I know a lot of you are priests or Levites. The challenge is to be the Samaritan.
Right.
To express kindness and compassion and sacrifice and generosity and patience and care and kindness and love. Not letting whatever it is get in the way. That's the challenge for all of us. To go and do likewise. You see the example of Jesus up on the cross. He went and did likewise. His neighbor on his right, his neighbor on his left. Even the people that were crucifying him. He prayed, God, forgive them. Very different. He deals with a couple sisters in a second here. Verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. I honestly think this is the same thing, just said in a different way. Is God the center of your life? A lot of stuff needed to be done, but Mary was like, you know what? There will be another day for us to do all the rest of this stuff. I'm going to just sit at the feet of the Lord. Martha was like, You can tell that God wasn't the center of Martha's life. And then what was her complaint? What's that? Yeah. It's not fair. It ain't fair. That's right. She left me to do all the work. It ain't fair. Don't you care? Don't you care? It ain't fair. You don't care. Isn't that funny? It was great. Sam and I were having a talk this morning about this. You know, we were on our prayer walk, and one of the things that he brought up was, he said, Dad, I don't get it. It doesn't seem fair to me that God would treat Moses after he hit the rock and now he couldn't go into the promised land. You know, it seems like he got a really bad punishment, and Paul, who killed all these Christians, he didn't get a very bad punishment. He said, it's not fair. I said, all right, well, look at that. Let's examine that. Paul wasn't a Christian when he was killing Christians. Was he? No. He was just beginning his life. God was going to call him and show him what he had to do. And I don't think, God gave him a very rosy life, to be honest with you. Stoned, and beaten, and chased out of town after town after town, and shipwrecked, and, in danger from animals, in danger from people, in danger from fellow Christians, and constantly on the run. He'd been in jail several times. He ended up, dying a martyr's death. I mean, that doesn't sound all that rosy to me. But God called him and he answered the call. God called Moses a long time before that, and Moses had been serving God for years, 40 years. Moses, got to go be with God on top of the mountain to the point where his whole body was radiating. And he had to cover himself so that he wouldn't glow too much. Moses had to deal with all the people all the time, and in the end, when he should have been the most humble, he got a little arrogant. Now, did that mean he didn't go to heaven? Not at all. But here's the thing. And this is something I want us all to understand. Why is it that if I'm traveling down the road 75 miles an hour, and I get pulled over and get a ticket, and Dom is traveling down the road at 75 miles an hour, and he gets pulled over and gets a warning? Is that fair?
To me,
To you, that's fair. Thank you.
For me, it's not.
Good friend he is. No, it's not fair, or it's not fair. It is.
It is what it is.
No, and you can't say it's just life. What you've got to learn how to say is, it's the way God is choosing to deal with it. I don't know why God does certain things to you. And a person in the same exact situation, he'll do certain things, different things to them. Why? Because that's how you need it, and that's how they need it, and there is no other answer. It has nothing to do with fair. Yeah, but I went to this school and I didn't get a job like that. That's not fair. Stop it. You're whining. God is dealing with you the way that God needs to deal with you. And God will deal with others the way that God needs to deal with them. Don't ever think that God's treatment of you will be exactly the same as God's treatment of anybody else. Martha comes screaming, "It's not fair!" And Jesus said, "When?" I mean, seriously, that's what he said. He said, "I'm not going to do anything about this. She chose what's better for her." No, she chose what's better. Now, did Jesus say, "Oh, don't go back to the kitchen, we don't need to eat"? He didn't say that, did he? He didn't say, "Oh, you should stop what you're doing." He didn't say that. Because she was going through what she needed to go through. Mary was going through what she needed to go through. And I think we've got to get it out of our head thinking that it's fair. God's not being fair to me. God is being exactly what he needs to be with you. Don't you dare stand on your high horse and challenge God, because your horse ain't that high. It just ain't. We need to learn how to be humble and say, "I don't know, God, but teach me whatever it is you got to teach me. It's not about my husband or my wife or my kids. It's not about my job or my boss. It's not about my professor or my schooling or my grades. It's not about my house selling or my house not selling. It's not about whether I get that job or I don't get that job, or how long I'm going to be on unemployment or not. It's not about my parents dying or being together or being separated. It's not about my bad judgment in the past and all the bills I have today. God, it's about me. And I need to learn how you're dealing with me. So, Father, teach me. Train me. But create in me the worker that I need to be. You try having that prayer. And we'll see what happens next.
Amen.
Amen.